The following episode might contain content that you might not be comfortable listening to. This might range from swearing to references to self-harm and substance abuse. Please proceed with caution and don't hesitate to reach out for help if you need it. What do you want to do in your lifetime? For both yourself and for others. How do you want to even be remembered by others? Hello, my name is Hazy, Who Killed Hazy, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Only Rainy Days podcast. Sticking on theme here. Definitely sticking on theme here. Because as of recording, this episode is deemed to be finished, recorded, edited, and released in about 23 hours from the moment I'm saying this right now. So, I swear I've been saying this for the last 3 months, but I gotta follow my schedule. But back onto the topic at hand here, and I'm actually kind of smart here. I'm finally going back to some of the things I wrote down prior to. No longer am I, creating topics off of the dome 15, 20 minutes before I actually start to record. Back to topic at hand. The question I asked earlier, what do you really want to do with your life? And that's always a question. That's a question you'll hear from basically the moment you have memories, early childhood, not even adolescence. I remember, I don't remember personally, not anymore, but I listened to my parents and even my older brother, I think once or twice, recount some of the things that I would say when they would ask me when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. My parents would always just kind of ask me, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I used to have these, I don't want to say they're outlandish ideas because they exist and things like that. But at least when I was younger, I always chose occupations and things that I had no previous background in, nor did I ever exhibit an actual interest in it. It was just this field sounds cool. But I didn't actually do anything with it. And I had some I think the weirdest one I had, and the only one I would call weird, just because of how old I was when I made the comment, or, I quote unquote declared that this was something I wanted to pursue later in life. I think I was 8 years old, somewhere between 8 and 10. And at one point I declared that I wanted to become a bartender. And keep in mind, I don't know where that thought really came from. I have no clue. If anything, somehow that was just the first service job that came to mind, because I was so used to running around the house and grabbing things. I just, I put 1 and 2 together and just assumed, maybe I'm good for bartending. I'm kind of good at fetching things and, putting things together, I guess, weird shit like that. So that's definitely the weirdest one I have. But, I went through, I guess, majority of the stereotypical, quote unquote, children dreams when it comes to thinking about occupations later in life. I think I said a doctor, scientist. I remember boxer. Boxer's the second strongest memory I have about what I dreamed of. And that was probably the closest one. That's the closest dream I've come to, I guess. I have no history in martial arts, anything like that. No boxing, taekwondo, nothing at all. Just at that time and throughout my early years, I think my mom told me I got diagnosed with anger issues when I was 2 years old or something like that. In some baby gymnastics class. I can't remember all the details. But I grew up one angry motherfucker. And it wasn't too bad because I was angry, but I was still able to kind of hold it within myself, I didn't lash out on people, really. I was just really frustrated. And then all it would take was someone to quote unquote push that line in my head for me to actually explode and start doing things. But I would never just run up looking for issues, trying to dispel whatever reason I was angry at the time or in general, because even thinking back on it now, a lot of things I was angry about, or like, seething, fuming about, really losing my mind about, I didn't have a reason to be that angry. Never. They grew up pretty angry, slightly violent. I was never opposed to violence. I guess that was kind of it. Always looking for trouble wherever I could get it. I know I pissed my older brother off a lot. Something that stayed true all the way until he left, basically. Because he's 4 years older than me. And he also went to the same residential high school I went to. So, I'm trying to think how old I was when he actually left for the school. If I had to take a random guess, I was probably 10, 11, somewhere in there. By that time, I kind of stopped. I kind of stopped being so aggressive, at least towards him. None of the weird little kid, little brother shit you would see. Wouldn't just run at him and punch him. I used to do that, just run at him, punch him, throw shit at him. Being a nuisance, honestly. With my limited recollection of events during that time period, and then like the stories that my mom, my dad, my brother had from that time period, I don't know how my brother could put up with me at that time, let alone actually be able to overlook it, because I was a little shit. I was definitely a little shit. Follow that up with a little bit of actual violent outbursts throughout growing up. A couple fights, undefeated. By the way, I just want to make sure that's known. I've gotten fights where I never got in trouble. I got in fights where I got in trouble for it. Whatever it was, whenever I threw hands, I never lost. Just gonna put that out there. But boxing was something I did legitimately consider growing up. And whether I decided, I think I gave that one up when I realized that part of boxing is getting hit yourself. Was not a real fan of it, or, I was so young to the point where, I really didn't like that prospect. And then a couple years later, I started playing football, but we don't talk about that. We don't talk about the football era. That was very short-lived due to a variety of factors. Oh man, I haven't thought about that far back in my life in so long. Or I guess it's not that far, but that's over half my lifespan ago, basically. So yeah, it is pretty far for me. But what do you want to be when you grow up? What do I want to be when I grow up? That is a question that has plagued me in recent years. And the more I realize it, that question always kind of, I want to say, ignited a fire in me. But it wasn't it wasn't like a soul ignition. It didn't create any drive. It just created dread, because I still kind of don't really know what I want to do. I think at this stage in my life, I might be the closest to actually knowing what I want to dedicate myself to, or narrowing my focus. But that's been my biggest issue throughout my entire life. I could never narrow my focus down to one thing. I was the kid in the candy shop taking samples from every vendor he could find, licking each lollipop one time, next flavor, one time, next flavor, one time, and going circles and circles and circles. And then once I licked everything once or twice, I just left the store. And that doesn't really help. It really doesn't help in life, because there's two things about my lack of direction that bothers me and has hindered my progress as a person. Because there's two things. Number one is not being proficient in anything, to be honest. There's some things where, I'm better in this field than others, but there's not really a field that I excel in anymore. If there was ever a field that I was really good at, was looking very promising in, at some point in my life, I gave it up to go chase something else. And that's not necessarily a problem, but it's only a problem because I didn't have a fallback, basically. This is a big difference from someone being in school for electrical engineering and then they spend all of their free time playing basketball with the hopes of getting into the NBA. I'm not doing any of those. I don't even have a goal in mind when I started doing all these random things. I didn't declare if it was just for recreation. Excuse me. I didn't declare if I was doing it for recreation or for profession. I was just kind of just doing whatever I really wanted to, and anything I wanted to excel in, then, I would push myself to it. But being younger when I did it, it was a lot better. Being from as far as my memory can stretch back until 12, dipped my toe into so many different things: math, science, reading, chess, a little bit of art, computer science, and coding. I still spend a lot of time just randomly researching other random things in life and just watching videos about, how do you do this and what's that and can I get my hand on it? And I will admit, I have also did the small little route of, I hate this word so much, or this term, but I did do a small route of content creation or being a content creator. It did not go anywhere. I was 12, 13 once. Found YouTube, randomly downloaded Bandicam on my hand-me-down laptop, recorded some gameplay with some very bad me talking over. I can't even think of the right word right now. But gameplay with talking, Minecraft videos, do that boy straight on YouTube. Forgot about it for a couple years until I realized that my YouTube name was the same as my PlayStation handle at the time. So then I had to do the frantic search of logging into that YouTube account that I forgot about. And I think I just clean wiped it. I don't even think those videos they're not unlisted. I'm pretty sure I completely decimated any history of those videos. And good riddance. Honestly, good riddance. I don't know what I even sounded like. I can't recall what the gameplay was like. All I know is that there's a fat Bandicam logo at the top. And I could not have been above the age of 13. And to be honest, Minecraft Let's Plays from someone who's not even above the age of 13, barely knows anything about any of that. I don't think I edited it. I don't think I even edited the video. I think it was just a raw 30-minute video from starting the world until I didn't feel like recording anymore. Terrible. Actually terrible. So thank God I got rid of it. But I dipped my toe into a lot of things. I wanted to see everything about life. I really wanted to see everything about it. I got very interested. Even with, in addition to some of the things I mentioned earlier, my parents are into, they have MBAs, so business. Both my parents are very big into business, especially now. But back when that question started to haunt me mentally, it was only really my dad. My dad had his own business and he was just starting it up and pushing it. He had a different venture into real estate, but that didn't really interested me. But just, being self-employed and having a business and building it up, he pushed that idea on me 24/7. It's just this is pretty cool. This is pretty fun. And it is pretty cool. And it is pretty fun because he always was able to be wherever he wanted to be. No one could control him, basically. In a comparison to my mom at the time, she had a regular desk job, 9 to 5. So there were some things where she just couldn't be there because, you have to go into work. My dad didn't have to do that. So I definitely had my fair shot of looking into entrepreneurship and learning as much as I can, or at least as much as I could comprehend at that age about that type of thing. Growing up, looked into more finance and, what is crypto? And, I spent a lot of my early years filling my head with so many different sources of information. And on one hand, I feel like if I actually put my head down when I was younger and chose something I wanted to do and actually just stuck with it through the highs and the lows, then I would have been better for it. Or I would be different for it, at least. You know, there's a huge common like mantra for people who are proficient and, you know, who excel in their field, which is they put in their hours. You know, they put in their 1,000 hours, their 2,000 hours, their 4,000 hours. I never did that. I'm the dude that put 5 hours into each game in his library and tried to tell you what he thought about it. I didn't give most things in life I didn't give it the proper time of day. Didn't give it any time at all to figure out, is this really something I want to do with myself or something I want to treat as a hobby? I was just jumping around, patty caking and hopscotching wherever I wanted. So I think if I actually stuck with something, then I would have been different for it. I would have been definitely different for us. The earlier, the better, too. I just didn't know. Nothing stuck. Nothing seemed fun. I'm trying to think of a good way to describe it. I guess it's just like the same as just going anywhere in life, basically. Even like museums or something like that. Museums, friends' houses, certain establishments. Even in certain areas, you know, the mystique, the beauty of going into a place you've never been. The first time, even the first couple times you go in somewhere, your eyes just open up, pupils dilate. You know, you're like scanning every little detail in this, and you just tell yourself, wow, this place is amazing. Like, this is amazing. Like, I recall, like 7-8 years ago, right before I went to high school, my best friend moved across town. So he still was in the area, just a different house. And I remember going to his new house for the first time and looking around and telling I was like starstruck. In comparison to some of the other houses I hear about and seen, it's not necessarily like, you know, spectacular. It's no mansion by any means. But in comparison to not only where I live, the house that he used to live in, his new house was like insane to me. Massive rooms for everyone and then some. And I spent the first couple of visits over there like trying to just see like, oh, well, can I see what's in this room real fast? Like, please? You know, I wanted to see all of it. Probably by like the 8th time I spent the night, the house lost its allure. Like, now it was just another place I was attuned with. And that's kind of what hobbies and different interests turned into for me. I would find something new. I would look around, and the moment it didn't have that beautiful puppy love that I was used to in the beginning, I threw it away before I could actually figure out, was it something that, you know, truly resonated with me. I didn't give it any time at all. So now here I am, you know, I don't even know what, 3 going on 4 years out of high school right now, having to retrace my steps constantly. And I can see it in my actions and my thoughts. Now I'm retracing my steps and rewiring my brain, or doing the best that I can about it, trying to instill that tunnel vision that I was afraid of in life. And yeah, just trying to get rid of it, or trying to instill it. What am I saying? You know, I want to be able to actually focus on one thing, or, you know, at least not that broad of a scope. If I can just narrow it down to one thing, and then, you know, maybe like a handful of surrounding topics, things that I might need to know in case, you know, I really start to get into it. If you're into art, you know, you might decide to start looking at different mediums of art and things like that. So then you broaden your horizon. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's a pretty big problem when you're trying to do math, science, reading, literature, philosophy, art, printmaking, and, I don't know, weaponsmithing all at the same time. You can't You can't split yourself too thin. You cannot spread yourself too thin. Otherwise, you get nothing done. And that's like the one big problem I have with, trying to think about what I want to do in life, because I'm always so used to just kind of looking around and trying to see everything. But because I did mention there was two parts to this, there's a second reason as to, I guess it's been relatively hard for me to actually stop diversifying my interests so much, or at least things I'm willing to look into and just, have knowledge on and keep and try to explore more just for the sake of it, which is, it kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning. How do you want to be remembered? I always enjoyed feeling helpful. I gotta sit here and I gotta think about this, and I gotta walk myself mentally through this so I could try to actually speak through this properly. But growing up, I always wanted to be helpful any way I can, regardless of, what it really did to me, or, how it affected me. And that goes into a whole nother mental problem in itself, or, mental critique of myself, but I'm going to try my best to avoid that. In fact, that might have to be something I talk on very soon, because there's also a source of imposter syndrome there, but we're not going to get into that. I always wanted to be helpful, and whatever helpful meant was something I was willing to fulfill and see. Oh, I was planning to do this at this certain time, but out of nowhere, someone just asked me to help them with this. Let me push aside my duties real fast to come help you with yours, whatever it may be. I'll be hypothetical because I don't think this actually happened. Lord if I know. But I could be doing my homework, look outside the window, see my mom shoveling snow, and it really didn't matter how old I was or how important it was. I just stop doing what I was doing and just head out there. No words. Doesn't matter what it is. If I'm already sick, I'm just what I gotta lose. I'm gonna go out there anyway. My back hurts. Guess what? My back's already hurting. Might as well. Which is terrible advice, by the way. Don't do that. But I always just want to do whatever I could do. I was at least gonna give it a shot. Whatever ever it could be. I need to stop saying that word, please. It didn't matter. And I picked up some skills from it. Picked up experience. I'm always watching too. So, I'm always watching, observing. I'd pick up new skills from there. I enjoyed being a jack of all trades. And I still do. I still do enjoy it. Because one, that means I can do a stupidly wide variety of things, which is a part of self-sufficiency, which I do enjoy being. I love being self-sufficient. But I also enjoyed the idea of people coming to me and asking me for help, even though I already disliked any amount of praise or, any amount of praise I would get for said action. I think subconsciously, I like to feel needed. I like to feel wanted. And the way that I conducted myself when I was younger, the only thing I could really do for people was inform or assist. I was not good socially growing up. My social skills really only hit a point where I would say good or acceptable senior year of high school. And since I graduated from high school, I went to college for 1 1/3 semesters. And if you wonder what that means, I dropped out like in the first 2 months of my second semester, freshman year of college. So, I don't want to say I was socially inept. If I needed to talk, I could. But I was still afraid to, especially during middle school and elementary school. I would not speak unless spoken to. And if he spoke to me, I'd keep that conversation short. I never knew what to say. Wasn't necessarily even good with comforting people at times. I would just say stupid shit with the people I was already attuned with and struggled the moment they brought any person I didn't even really know like that. I could be in a group of 6 of my friends. One of them can bring over one of their friends. And maybe even the whole group, like, recognizes them, likes them. Everyone's talking amongst each other. Everyone's talking amongst themselves and just having a good time. And I immediately shy away from the conversation because, like, I got thrown off balance by it. It was never good with talking to people. But I was good at learning. And that's really where I kind of turned all right. At least I had that going for me in school, to be honest. That's the way I feel about it. At the very least, I was willing to learn skills to supplement my inability to talk to people due to anxiety and things like that. I didn't really need to be the life of the party or know what to say or, have those connections because someone wants something from someone else. I didn't need all that. I just had to learn whatever I could to just assist people. And then wherever it comes in handy, it comes in handy. And now I'm on a better foot with someone to the point where maybe one day I can be their friend. And it has worked like that. Through high school, I just learned, especially during high school, by that point, I was pretty big into computers, or at the very least, I knew how to fix most of the rudimentary issues that you would have with, say, just a regular laptop or anything like that. Oh, my sound's not working. Wi-Fi signal's weak, or it's dropping, or it just won't connect. What's the what's the ISP's password? I can't figure out where to download this, get rid of that. My camera looks fuzzy. Like all these surface level ideas and problems and issues. For many topics, I was able to be of some sort of assistance. And that included handyman work. I learned a little bit on how to do a lot of things. Pick locks, physicality, fix chargers and electronical devices. I would always just want something. I was always looking for something new on how to apply myself to people because I would never be enough in their eyes if it wasn't for that. I wouldn't have anything. People wouldn't have a reason to talk to me. And as much as I pride myself on keeping my circle short and not really needing or even wanting to talk to a lot of people, because that's true, it's just good to feel wanted. It's just a good feeling. And especially throughout certain periods of my life where I would only really talk to 1 to 3 people a day, and even those conversations might be short. If I could just have a couple people every single day just kind of come around, or a couple people every week just kind of come find me for anything that they really needed. Oh, what answers did you get on this homework? Yo, can we study together on Friday afternoon? Can you help me move this crate to a friend's room? Anything like that. If people came to me for service, then that was enough for me to feel like, honestly, for me to feel like I wasn't worthless. I don't believe I really offered too much to people. Middle school and most of high school. I'm not gonna talk about elementary. I didn't really do anything. Elementary was an odd period of time. I really only talked to... Oh, I lost a picture, man. Oh, I remember I have a picture. Me and the 5 friends that I had, 6 friends I had in elementary school. We took a picture. It was I think it was 4th or 5th grade. We had some weird dance. in the cafeteria around the end of the year. We took a picture, and I used to have it. I think I found it like 2-3 years ago. I don't know where it is anymore. Might be in my basement. But elementary school, I only had like 5 friends. I had 5 friends, and then my best friend, still to this day, he has two twin sisters, or they're triplets, and I would get along decently well with them. You know, if I'd be able to actually facilitate small talk if needed, but I still didn't want to do it. But so, elementary school, you're not about to have an elementary kid might not really ask you for much. Oh, can I borrow a pencil? I guess I had extra pencils, so I probably just did it anyway. But elementary years, I was too young to really start to self-reflect to a fraction that I can do today, let alone when middle school and high school hit. Because middle school is when shit started to go down, and then high school is when the shit blew the fuck up. And that's also when I kind of found myself. I started to actually have an answer to, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? In the midst of being literally my lowest in life, because that was the lowest period of my life to this day, I actually started to find things that I enjoyed and started to actually be able to narrow my vision, my focus, start working on things, not just because I wanted people to view me as if I had some sort of worth, but because it actually made me feel good. I felt happy doing it. I had no problems researching deeply into the topic. And at least for me, even though it did start off as a hobby, I was going to do it for free. Like, it was a hobby. It would forever be a hobby. It still is a hobby to this day when I always talk about art. I found my love for art in the midst of going through my worst mental health crisis. And to this day, it's still one of my rocks. It's still one of the things I always do. I have sticky notes and journals for just sketching, and I just doodle a lot. I got a drawing tablet to the side of me filled with so many different documents of just sketches and unfinished art pieces and art pieces finished. Try my hand in a lot of different mediums. I got drawings, little booklets, posters, graphic design, paintings, drip painting, even 3D modeling and 3D scenery. Photography too. Oh my god, I forgot I was a little bit into photography. Try my hand everywhere there. And for a while that really did seem to be like, it felt like I was finally escaping the jack of all trades moniker, I guess. Not moniker, but aspect, trait. Why not? Let's use the word trait. I was finally escaping the jack of all trades trait that I kind of held to myself so deeply because it was the only thing I could really hold on to at the time. I loved art. I still do. But the reason why this came to mind and why I really wanted to talk about it, if not tonight, sometime very soon in any medium, privately or publicly, that's art kind of fell apart for me. Or I don't want to say fell apart, but it's not the same anymore. It's not the same anymore. And I don't know why. Which is, that's an odd statement for me personally, because I'm honestly thinking about it. I don't know why I really gave up art. I graduated from high school in 2020. That was pandemic. My parents really didn't want me to go to college while COVID was going on. So we made a deal. I'll just take a gap year against my will because I didn't really care. I still wanted to go for it. I take a gap year. 2021 comes around. I can start to, enroll in college again and see what I want to get into. Waited 1 year. During that 1 year, I did fuck around. I spent that entire year fucking around. As should be a gap year, honestly. Have my fun in whatever medium it was. But I didn't really follow art during that time period. But I didn't let that put me down or anything. Around the time that it was starting to be the school year starting for me, got right back into art, started drawing like crazy, started having all these ideas. Dreams were vivid. Daydreaming was unescapable. I would try to draw, and while drawing, I would lose focus, dreaming about other things I could draw. It started to consume my life. It was a feeling of euphoria, a sense of purpose, drive I have not felt many times throughout my life. And from what I can only imagine is what people feel when they find that one topic that really touches their soul. You know, that one thing that actually makes you happy, that thing that pulls you out of bed, the thing that you can't stop dreaming about and thinking about and wanting to improve and dissect and research, connect, collaborate, everything. I wanted it all, and I wanted it all for the time that I was actually in college. When the school year actually started up, I focused up on everything. Even though the school didn't really have grades, if they had grades, that was probably my best academic performance I've seen since high school. That's a lie. Freshman year, I killed that shit. I killed freshman year of high school, but that was easy because it didn't put me in the right classes. When I transferred out of my first high school into the second one, I ended up graduating from high school with a 2.3 GPA, which isn't even good enough to apply for most scholarships. There was no grading structure for college, but if there was, I had to have aced that fucking semester, basically. I spent so much time. I was addicted to it. It didn't matter. I took whatever classes I could afford to take, made sure that it fit up with, just a regular schedule of life, and I focused throughout all of it, even the boring classes or the teachers that did not know how to conduct their classes in a way that suited me. I'm not going to say it was incorrect, but I didn't like it. Like, second semester of my freshman year for college, my art history class was boring to all hell and back. Easily the worst class I took during my short tenure in college. That one was really boring, but even though it was super boring, I still paid attention. And after class, because I was still going to school online at the time, after class or just out of boredom, I would just go into the website, the back end for the school, and I would just start looking through all the documents that the teacher would have for us, because they would make like 100-page plus PDFs that they would present for like the 2-hour class. And sometimes when I was bored, I would just go through that and start looking up things and just analyzing the art. Did that for so many different other classes. Spent countless hours just doing my thing in art, basically. Just enjoying all of it. And then some shit happened. I mean, I guess I can just tackle that right now because not too much. It's not enough to really, devote its own episode or even massive time frame to. But I dropped out of college because I couldn't afford it, basically. I shot a little too high, how I like to put it. Because no scholarships, trying to go to a prestigious school, and basically was just praying to God that financial aid was going to make it anywhere bearable. Financial aid, reduced credits, and no housing still was a little bit too much. So I remember that December 2021, Christmas of 2021, I spent a lot of time alone in a room. And like seasonal depression, the music I just found during the time, all that. I spent a lot of time kind of moping around, sitting around, just thinking about my future. What did I want to do in life? And the one question that I was always running from and felt as if I finally escaped came back and delivered a killing blow to me. I had no clue what I wanted to do. I spent all this time learning as much as I can, making detailed notes about things I need to study more about art and study about my own art, doing studies on so many different parts of human anatomy, color theory, lighting, you name it, I was doing that shit. Even there's a program, it's a free program, online program called drawbox.com. I was doing that too. I was just trying to figure out how to learning perspective with the simplest geometric shape you can think of, a box. I was doing so much to try to facilitate this dream of being an artist. Yet, whenever someone would ask me, I would be at a family function and they would ask me, "Oh, Hazy, what are you in school for?" And I would say, "I'm at this college. I'm going for digital illustration." And they would say, "Oh my God, that's amazing." Hit me with the stereotypical, "Oh, can I see your art?" And I show them some things. There's some art pieces I never want family to see. In fact, the art piece I'm most proud of, I cannot let my family see it. I don't really want them to see it because I don't want to describe what it means to me, to them. And it's going to stay that way, honestly. Whatever. They'll find it one day. And whenever they find it, then we can have that conversation. But, they would look at the art and then say, "Oh, so what do you plan to do when you get out of college?" And I would always have to just say, I was always have filler answers. And at face value, they don't seem like filler answers. They're just answers. I would say, "Oh, well, I'm really big into digital illustration, so I kind of want to be a concept artist for the game industry, basically, because I'm a really big fan of Riot Games' artistic direction. The illustration team and the contractors that they hire is the reason that really got me into art in the first place. I really love League of Legends splash arts. So that was kind of my end goal. In my own head, though, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I had thoughts about giving up 2D and switching to 3D animation, 2D animation, conceptual art, background conceptual art, just freelancing and drawing however the hell I wanted to draw and just seeing, what opportunities come from it. I even dabbled in comics. I have one comic from a workshop I did in high school still downstairs in my basement to this day. I had no clue what I wanted to do, and I was unwilling to really just put my foot down because I didn't know. I was very unsure of myself and my capabilities and my potential. And it all got to me when one Christmas night or close to Christmas night, I just started to think about it. And it was in the back of my head, I just kept telling myself, if you can't figure out what you're doing here, you need to leave, because the financial burden that's getting put on right now is already pretty fucking bad. And, the whole plan was if I finished that year, then I was going to start looking into actually being on campus, which being on campus and, going up to appropriate amount of credits per semester, 15 instead of 12, because I was missing a class, the price would have damn near doubled on me, basically. So I had to make a decision, and I knew it had to be quick. I looked up the website, I looked up the school resource, realized that I had to drop out within the first 6 to 8 weeks of a semester to get 50% of my tuition back for that semester. So I made my decision, called into my counselor office and told them that I wanted to drop out immediately, and just dropped out, left all of it behind. And it was kind of sad. It was kind of sad, to be honest. I'm thinking about it right now, and I'm gonna try to keep my composure because this actually really upsets me now thinking about it. But I remember the school was really weird. They don't really have a good system for teachers being notified when students drop out of the school. So I remember I was just kind of checking my school email consistently throughout this time period because I just wanted to make sure I got all the confirmations that, oh, I'm getting my money back. This money's going to this account. FAFSA is doing FAFSA things. I was checking everything. And during that time period, I got a couple of emails from basically all my teachers that semester, as well as my favorite teacher from that school when I had a first semester. All the teachers I had that semester, they just sent me an email saying, oh, where are you? Two of them were like, where are you, Hazy? You didn't show up to class today. Is everything all right? Some of the teachers, I guess, somehow got the notice that I dropped out, and they just wished me well in my endeavors. But one of the teachers that asked me how come I missed class, and I told her I dropped out, as well as my favorite teacher I had first semester in college. When I told them oh yeah, no, I am dropping out of college, and this is just too much of a financial burden for me right now, and I don't feel confident enough in my ability to really feel like dedicating myself to this craft is something that will pay off in the long end. My favorite teacher, I had him I don't remember the class, but he did really heavy critiques. Not tear you a new one critiques, but it would be like a class of 12 of us, and we would go around and he would let everyone speak their piece on everyone else's works. And then he would just point out so many details and be able to take himself out of his shoes, put him in yours, and then give you great feedback on how to push your message in that art piece even further. I remember getting an email from when I dropped out, and he offered himself as a source of recommendation for future endeavors, and just kind of, basically just let it be known that he was kind of sad that I was dropping out, because he really saw something in me. And that one hurts, man. That one hurts, man. Holy shit. I was just talking about that teacher a couple days ago, but I forgot about that email, man. Because I like that teacher. I actually really love that teacher. He makes some good art. He's an interesting, funny old dude. Youthful old man. And he was just really good as a mentor. Spent a lot of time, as much time as I really could, especially being online, just kind of going back and forth with ideas and concepts, things I would sketch up for the upcoming project and things like that. And he always seemed to really lean into and give me some great feedback and things that I should start focusing on next and everything like that. So to basically be on my knees trying to figure out how to pick up the scraps of my life or figure out what's the next chapter for me. I'm kind of hear that he understands the circumstances, but it's kind of sad that my art direction, is coming to a close. Man, that shit hurts. That shit hurts because now I'm sitting here thinking that I made a bad decision. But it's not too late, honestly. It's not too late. I would love the opportunity to, go to the school and, have a proper college experience. That'd be nice. But I kind of need to focus on what's really important here, because it's not the college experience that I was... let me back up. The college experience is nice, but that's not really what I cared about. I always wondered what life would be for me past college. That was always my biggest concern. It wasn't, what is the college life gonna be like? What am I gonna get myself into? And yada yada, all that fuck shit, 2 9s and a 4, whatever. I always just wondered what life was like, basically. I always kind of wondered what's in store for me, basically. And since dropping out of college, I kind of just drifted. I've kind of just been drifting and playing around with a lot of different ideas and trying to figure out like, all right, well, where do I fit in this puzzle we call life? Or where do I want to really make myself fit? Because I can, you can do whatever in life you really want to do. As long as you put yourself in there and you dedicate the time and the hours that you need. If you do everything right, or just, be hell-bent enough about it, it gonna work out. And I know that. So I'm just trying to figure out where to apply myself now. Especially with the last year being somewhat of a drift stage. It's not too much of a drift. Instead of finding what's, good for me, I allowed myself to drift a little bit. And as long as I just stayed afloat, then it kind of worked. So, I work now. At one point I had 2 jobs. I was working at Amazon. Praise be to that Amazon job. It helped me break out of my talking shell a little bit. Just enough. But now I'm kind of in that point where I really want to start to anchor down on one thing. And again, it's not for perception. I'm actually quite done with perception. I wonder what people think of me, because I believe if you ask 10 people about a topic and 9 of them say the same thing, then it's probably true. So I care about what people say in case I'm doing something wrong and I can't comprehend it personally. But outside of that, I want to find out, what can I do right now for myself to propel the dreams that I have and the things that I'm interested in. Some of the things that, I've been dreaming about, noting down and planning out for some of it's the last 2 years. Only Rainy Days as a name and as a eventual brand I want to build out. I created this name in my head 5 years ago. Came up with this in 2018. And at the time, I didn't even know what I wanted to do with the name. I always just knew that it was a name I wanted. So now that I really want to just start doing more with the name, with the moniker, with the brand, I need to sit down and figure out, what does that really mean? Because lately I've been spending my time jumping around again. That's been the main reason. That's been the main reason why this topic's been on my mind. I've been in a massive slump lately. Last month or 2 months. Massive slump, massive depression. Massive depressive episode, basically. I feel like I'm stretching myself too thin. When I actually do apply myself to certain things for myself, I feel as if I'm focusing on the wrong thing. I've been needing an opportunity to essentially disconnect. A time where I can just step back and just kind of plan for about like a year or 2 in advance. Give myself concrete goals that I want to hit and make sure that those goals actually continually align with each other. With how I'm feeling currently. When 2022 started to come to an end, I wrote in my journal a couple goals and things that I wanted to see for this year. And for some of them, surprisingly and happily, I'm actually on track to hit. And I'm very happy about it. But some of those goals, I realize I don't think is either something I want to pursue anymore, or is completely detrimental to some of the other goals and ideas that I have for Only Rainy Days as a whole, because of the time commitment. I gotta be able to manage my time. I gotta actually figure out what I want to hit, and because when I know where my target is, then it makes managing time easier. Because even today, I spent like an hour trying to figure out what I should be doing with myself to try to progress and move forward. Finding a balance between things I enjoy and things I want to move forward, and dreams about the future, basically. I need direction. I need direction. And I'm getting closer to, I think sometime next couple of days, I am going to take that nice time. Disconnect from most of the things, most of the obligations and everything that I'm used to trying to uphold 24/7. And I'm just going to start re-evaluating things, figuring out what else makes sense for me to do. I've been stretching myself thin, and I've been stretching my focus thin. So as a result, everything's been crumbling. A lot of things have been crumbling. I've been worried if I'm worried if I spend enough time with my friends. If I've spent enough time with my friends. They're all starting to go back to school again, and I spent the entire summer still trying to be like hell-bent on some of the shit I've been doing. So this one window of opportunity where I could have been having good times with them, I kind of locked myself in a room doing something else that could have been avoided, I'm sure of it. So I'm worried about that. I have so many different ideas in terms of work and progression I want to focus on. I'm not giving myself deadlines or goals or timelines, nothing. I'm just working on it as it comes. So now I'm all over the place. I'm scattered like marbles dropped out of a jar, trying to figure out where to start picking it all up. It's not good. It's not good to have a lack of direction, You kind of have to just find one thing and just shoot for it, basically. It's nice to know other things. It's actually it's a strong skill to be well versed in many fields of life, but don't let that consume you, basically. Find that one thing you want to be hell-bent about, something that you really care for. What do you want to do with your life, basically? What you want to be remembered for. I got friends who I remember probably just because they're CS majors and really good at it. I got one friend, and the first word that comes to mind when I think of him is cybersecurity, because that's one thing he's been hell-bent about as long as I've known him. And he's still hell-bent about it to this day, and he still enjoys it. That's his focus. He's never really had that same tunnel vision issue because he locked his sights on something and he's not letting it go. And I'm sure I've talked to him about throughout all the time I've known him. Not sophomore year, junior year, senior year of high school, and a little bit afterwards as well. He always had goals in mind too. He always had goals in mind and things that, he could start to strive for. I remember watching him create something, and it's not even like it was a project that he was actually personally invested in or something that he wanted to do just for the sake of doing it. He just realized that it would be a good way to start, he would have something to show on his portfolio to start, attracting internships and things like that. And sure enough, a lot of things that he did throughout the time I knew him in high school landed a pretty nice opportunity, a nice position straight out of high school to do what he wanted to do. He had goals and he knew it. He scoped them out and then he actually hit his targets. So proud of him. If anything, it's a good reminder of what I need to do. I'm just kind of letting the coast take me by, and it's not a bad thing necessarily, but that's not what I want for myself. And that's where the big disconnect is. I want to move very far. I have things I know for a fact that I don't want to. I want something. That's it. That's all I know. I want something. And I want to be dedicated to it. So I need to make goals and things like that so I can actually prove it to myself that I'm dedicated. And it'll help me later in life. As I move on and on, I'll have a constant list, like an encyclopedia, basically. That's not a good thing. That's not the right word. I have a checklist. I'll have a checklist of things that I should either figure out is this necessary or know my next step. It gives me directions. It's as if the path starts to carve itself in front of me. The fog starts to go away. All that beauty in life, In general, though, it's just good to be mentally tidy, I guess. It's just good to have goals. It's good to have goals and things you want to push for. They don't have to be work related, You really can't just be anything you really want to just do or focus on or just accomplish. You don't need to have all these weird and wacky hyper detailed goals other people have. You can be You can't even think of an age. I don't even know. You could just write down things that you want, or things that you want to see, or things that you want to do. Hell, if you want a CDL, if you want a commercial driving license, just write down on your list CDL. All right, figure out what it takes to start getting a CDL, and then go for it. As long as you have something to push for, basically, that's where happiness comes from. That's a good source of happiness. So, yeah, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. It's not a terrible thing to, deep breath. It's not terrible to be well versed in different types of information and things that, can help others, resources. It's very good. I really want to stress that it's really good to know a lot of things. It saves you in a lot of different places. So while it is pretty nice to know a lot of things and to be able to handle a lot of things on your own, if there's one thing I think I would regret throughout probably 8 to 10 years of my life, I really do regret holding true to the title of being a jack of all trades.